what's quite interesting to me in terms of management, and I want to task you in a minute to see how many you can remember of who's been sacked and moved on this season. But there's never been so many. There has never been so many sackings in a Premier League season. It is a record. 13 managerial changes, 12 sackings, and 1 departure. That departure was Graham Potter, who has since been sacked at another club. It's insanity. Are we at the breaking point here of the idiocy of this season that maybe there might be, I don't know if it's punishment is the right word, but we need to make a fundamental change here, because sacking the manager, it's the only thing you can do now because there's no transfer window. But sacking the manager for another manager, who has it really improved this season? Has it improved Southampton? No. Has it improved Leeds? No. Has it improved Bournemouth? Maybe, but not really. Has it improved Everton? I think it's an argument to say yes. Wolverhampton Wanderers, they're about where I'd expect. Crystal Palace, the same. Chelsea, you know, I think they've got significantly worse, actually, since replacing Tickles with Potter. You know, that's 10th and down. Is there maybe some learning here? And should there maybe a bit of a sea change in that sacking the manager can't just be the thing that you do? Are we learning this year the fact that as we speak, there are 3 clubs without a permanent manager, that the old cupboard of Pardew, Pulis, Hodgson, whatever, it's bare. It's bare because everyone's been used so many times and those guys have retired. There's no Red Adair characters left anymore. That maybe there might be more David Moyes and Steve Cooper stories. There might be more Arteta stories who could have got sacked a year or so ago. There might be more Eric Ten Hag stories. So, you know, we did the joke about it. He's going to go after the Brentford game. You know, by the way, he's got less points than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's first season at this point, but we can't do that today.
Yeah.
I mean, my weird speculation here is, I love your view on this. Should there be some sort of punishment for sacking your manager? Because at the moment, it happens so willy-nilly.
Yeah.
That I feel like there's got to be some sort of issue. And I would wonder whether, if you're going to sack your manager, you can't just be like, yeah, sack him, see what happens. There should be more of a, okay, you can sack your manager. You get your one get out of jail free card this season. You don't do it twice. That should be against the bloody rules, by the way. But you lose 3 points. You sack the manager, fine. But you lose 3 points. That's the trade. You've got to trade to replace your manager. Otherwise, you know, it used to be, not always, it's not like rose-tinted glasses, but it used to be that, you know, sometimes you had a bad season. And sometimes you had a good season. Brendan Rodgers is not a bad manager. Graham Potter is not a bad manager because of the last 24, 48, whatever it is, hours. So aren't they a bit obliged to let Graham Potter see this season through and see what he can do?
I just think if you are going to have to pay the manager out, that should have some type of hit on your operating budget or maybe your television revenue. Maybe that goes into the kitty to be redistributed or goes to some type of charity. I think there's like a, theoretically, I think there's a good idea somewhere in there. It's the same old conversation, right? You're either paying for the mistakes of the manager, you're paying for the mistakes of the sporting director, for the players that you identified that maybe aren't up to snuff. Because at the end of the day, all of these conversations, player responsibility is very rarely talked about outside of downing tools. And there's no discernible, identifiable, you know, where you're just like, oh yeah, no, he's doing that on purpose. He's not like turning around and booting the ball in his own goal. But the easiest way to get around this is go find a better manager, go find a better tactician, go find a better leader, go find a bigger, stronger voice that the immediacy of that group will start to listen to. But again, at this stage of the season, I unless you have someone 100% lined up that is going to be a better manager than the one you just fired, what's the point?
What is the point?
I get it's a ton of money. I get that we're talking about Premier League money versus the parachute money into the championship, and there's no immediacy, and 100% you're coming right back up. But I mean, what's like Chelsea's in what, 11th position? Like outside of your ego hurting, if you're Todd Boehly, what is the point?
See it through if you're Todd Boehly, right?
Yeah.
See it through. And if they win the Champions League or they beat Real Madrid, you can still in the summer say, look, it didn't work out, buddy. But you know what? I gave you that rope. I gave you that leeway. I gave you that ability to prove to me what you could do. And there's been this is why managers these days can't survive adversity. Because no one goes through any adversity. They either have a good time or they get the sack. And it's such a fundamental cultural problem with this entire stupid industry because there's certain financial targets that must be met and all that sort of stuff. But if you give someone that job, sometimes it's going to go badly.
Look at Arteta.
Sometimes, look at Arteta. But look, I would even take away Arteta. You can look at David Moyes this season, right? If he keeps West Ham up, right? If he keeps West Ham up, and God knows I have been on the fence about it, as you know, and I think he probably could have gone earlier in the season because it feels like that is over. But let's go back to his time at Everton. There were times when they were 17th and they could have gone down. The next year, they were battling for 4th and 5th. The next year, they were struggling again. You know, there are look at Brendan Rodgers. If he'd have seen this season out and kept them up, he could have handshakes all round and gone, I won them the FA Cup. There was 2 top 5 finishes. The last season weren't so great, but that's the way it goes. Instead, no one knows how to get through these times because no one lives through these times anymore. It's super dumb. It doesn't make sense. Listen, I want to move on to a couple of other bits, but I've got to ask you this. Let's bring Tim in here as well, because I know Tim's annoyed with us because of all the swearing. But let's do today's Week in the Tackle quiz. How many managers sacked this season can you name? We'll go with Dunny, on to Tim, one at a time, and the first one to get one wrong is out, because I think you can do this. So there are 12 sackings. Dunny, we'll start with you. Name me one.
Conte.
Antonio Conte was sacked on the 26th of March at Tottenham. Yes, Tim.
Steven Gerrard.
Steven Gerrard, Liverpool legend and Aston Villa person, was sacked on October the 20th. Yes, Dunny.
Timmy Tickles.
Timmy Tickles, incredibly, was sacked all the way back in September the 7th at Chelsea. Tickles went. Tim.
Our man, Jesse Marsh.
Jesse Marsh, God bless him, and all who sail in his unemployability, was sacked on my birthday, February the 6th at Leeds United. Dunny.
Graham Potter.
Graham Potter was indeed sacked on Sunday, just gone as Chelsea manager. You can also get double points for that as he resigned at Brighton. So you get double points in this really important quiz. Tim.
Frank Lampard.
Yes, that was this season. Sorry, I thought that was another season.
Yeah, it was this season. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah.
I thought he'd done it there. Frankie Lampard was sacked as Everton manager on the 23rd of January. Correct. Dunny.
Patrick Vieira.
Patrick Vieira was sacked at Crystal Palace on the 17th of March. Tim.
This was this season, right? Scott Parker?
Scott Parker was sacked on the 30th of August as Bournemouth manager. And inexplicably, yes, that was this season, which still has like 10 weeks to go. Dunny.
Bruno Lage.
Oh, that is a deep reach. And it's a correct reach. Bruno Lage was sacked on October the 2nd as manager of Wolverhampton Wanderers.
We haven't talked about him quite yet. Brendan Rodgers.
Who?
My accent's worse. Yeah.
He was Irish.
That sounded like Billy Connolly joined us on the podcast. Yes, Brendan
Rodgers.
Rodgers on Sunday, as well as Leicester City manager. I think
we're at 11.
We've got 2 left that you haven't mentioned.
Ralph Hasenhüttl.
Oh, it's terrific. It's terrific. Ralph Hasenhüttl was sacked on the 7th of November, leaving just one manager left that we haven't listed.
I mean, that sparked the memory. Is it Nathan Jones?
Oh, guys, Nathan Jones.
Did we really get them all?
The unbelievably unpopular Nathan Jones, who could have married a woman in Wales.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
What an idiot. But he was sacked on the 12th of February. There you go. Victory all round. Victory in Europe. VE
well
Day.
Done, horsey.
We fucking nailed it, Dunny.
Yeah, buddy.
Hashtag sorry, Dunny. And there's a great tweet from Graham Rutherford. I wanted to bring this to you, which I loved. Roberto De Zerbi is now the 11th longest serving manager in the Premier League.
It's crazy.
Appointed in September.